everyone. So, as we all know, I'm a huge fan of Stan Lee and all his work, very much so. Spider-Man is my all-time favorite hero. Um, so I thought I'd do a little homage to my main man, the creator, as some of us like to call him. Gonna play Spider-Man PS4 and spit out some facts. The facts are actually brought to you by Factinate.com. That is Factinate.com. So, I don't know how many people know this, but Stan Lee, that is not his birth name. His birth name is actually Stanley Martin Lieber. He shortened that later down the road. That was his stage name per se. Much easier to autograph. Now, most people know him by Marvel, but Marvel didn't start off as Marvel. Okay, he joined as an editor to Timely Comics in 1941. In the 1950s, they renamed themselves Atlas, and then in 1961 they rebranded completely as Marvel, which we know today. Now, Stan Lee didn't do his work alone, of course not. Nobody builds monuments with their bare hands by themselves, and if they do, cheers to them, but not everybody does that. Alongside Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, he created Spider-Man, Captain America, the Hulk, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Daredevil, Thor, and of course the X-Men, and pretty much any other big-name Marvel character you can think of off the top of your head. Almost anyone that anyone would name as their favorite. He was inducted into the comic book industry Will Eisner Hall of Fame in 1994. The Jack Kirby Hall of Fame in 1995, and received a National Medal of Arts in 2008. Yeah, that's a long ways from the 60s when things really got popping for him, but I mean, at least he got love while he was alive. Some of Stan's biggest influences include Stephen King, H.G. Wells, Mark Twain, Arthur Conan Doyle, William Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, and Harlan Ellison. In 1998, Stan signed the deal that required him to spend at least 10% of his time with the company, whether it was developing movies or clearing ideas as still a head editor. And then, of course, a special agreement clause in there was that he had to appear as a cameo in any movies based on characters he created. And as I've already said, that's a whole lot of them. I mean, I'm sure you know this by now, given most of us have seen all the movies. Now, in 2012, he branched away from the traditional superhero thing. I mean, he had done it before, but this was different. He actually did a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. As I said, Shakespeare is one of his biggest influences. And it's kind of a more modern telling, 1821, Romeo and Juliet, the war, where they all had superpowers. Imagine how much more tragic and destructive any Shakespeare would be if the characters had superpowers. His favorite supervillain of them all was Doctor Doom. He feels like he was misunderstood just because he wanted to rule the world. It didn't make him 100% evil or a villain. He kind of got quoted saying he thinks that Doctor Doom could run the world better than most of the people doing it right now do. Okay, now you've all heard a geek, a nerd, or Stanley himself say Excelsior. It means ever upward. It's also the state of New York's motto, and Al Gore's motto in South Park's Man Bear Pig episode. Stanley also has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It is the 2,428th star on the walk. It's on Hollywood Boulevard, located right in front of the Live Nation building. A lot of people don't know this, but his signature slick back hair was actually cut for years upon years upon years by his wife until she sadly passed away and he had to find a barber. I hope he found a good one, because much like J. Jonah Jameson said, there's only one person you can really trust in this world, and it's your barber. Now, a lot of people don't know this. I actually did before I read this list of facts. His first job per se in the publishing business of any kind was not anything to do with superheroes or stories really at all. It was actually, it doesn't mention the company, but he was writing obituaries for celebrities. Yeah, he left the job quoting that it was too depressing for him to continue. I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you, bro. Now, in 1941, he actually, the first time he ever used the name Stan Lee on anything published was actually on a 2-page Captain America comic. It was in August 1st, 1941. And it was actually reused into Captain America issue 5. In 1971, he received a letter from the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare asking him to put on an anti-drug ad in one of his books. He came up with a Spider-Man story involved where Harry Osborn, one of his best friends as we all know, was abusing pills after a bad breakup. The CCA actually would not approve of the whole story, but he urged his publisher, you know, come on, man, let's do it. It's a great story. It'll get a point across, and they ran it anyway. So, you know, Stan's a hero in real life as well. He didn't stop just because they told him no. He did the right thing. Fun fact about the Hulk in him, back then the gray ink they used was really inconsistent. It would come out green at times, and that's wound up what happening. The Hulk was originally supposed to be gray, but then after the inconsistent and him constantly looking green, he decided to put, with no explanation at all, in the bubble, he turns green. Apparently his wife, during a big old fight they had, destroyed the typewriter used to, you know, create the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, and he says it's too bad that they just threw it away because he himself could have probably sold the parts on eBay. There was once an arson that happened at his house. They never found the person that did it. It was when he had actually moved his family to Los Angeles. He set up a studio in Vinoy, I don't know how it's pronounced, and he stored a bunch of videotapes of his interviews there. But the problem is it caught fire somehow. They could never find the person who did it or how it exactly started, but they believed it to be arson. And in 2012, he had the first set of surgeries, including the pacemaker implication. He had to cancel a bunch of planned appearances at conventions, but let's be honest, let's be happy he did that because it gave him that many more years with us. I'm sure a lot of people were upset. Oh man, he's not coming, I wanted to see him, that's the only reason I'm going to take it. Well, I'd rather have him around a few more years than, hey, I can shake his hand this one time. In 2008, George W. Bush presented Stan Lee with the American National Medal of the Arts. Stan Lee is the only comic book writer, creator, so forth to ever receive that honor. You're a friggin' job. Oh, here's a fun fact for my fellow gamers out there. In The Amazing Spider-Man, there was a part of a DLC mission where you actually got to play as Stan Lee himself with all of Spidey's powers at his disposal. I think that would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind running around as Stan Lee with Spidey powers. Hey, young punk, give back that purse. Stan Lee actually started his own comic book convention, sort of. In 2012, he contacted Regina, excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, but Carpinelli, who had already slowly started Kamikaze Expo, and he partnered with her, and so he made frequent, he always appeared afterward. He was there shaking hands, doing sign-ins, meeting the fans, all that good stuff. Stan Lee had a TV show that started back in 2010. It's called Stan Lee's Superhumans, which he documented people with extraordinary skills and abilities, from amazing cosplay creations to people who had come up with an entirely new way to engineer things, fabricate things. You know, people who just did outstanding things that not too many other people did. He thought he would showcase them and give them some shine. Stan Lee's always been like that. He likes to show out for the little guy, for the underdog. So apparently in 2011, he partnered with the NHL, that's National Hockey League, um, to create superhero characters for each of the NHL teams. It was short-lived, but thanks to the internet, you can look them up at any time. Some of you might not remember this, but he actually created a cartoon. It only lasted one season on Spike TV. It was called Stripperella, and it was a cartoon where Pamela Anderson was Stripperella. She was a stripping superhero. It only lasted one season because Pam didn't want to continue into season 2 because Stan wanted some nudity and she didn't. That's understandable. They agreed and went their separate ways. Now, to follow up on that note, he had tried to pitch an adult comic to Playboy, an actual story comic that included plenty of nudity, drawn-up versions of some of the most famous Playmates there are. It didn't really fly well or get, the okay simply because some of the names in this included High Princess Clydiana and Lord Peckerton. Yeah, you gotta be a little more creative. Can't make that blunt stand. The old perv. Maybe they were right on Guardians of the Galaxy. Did y'all know we were never supposed to like Iron Man? Stan Lee actually created him as an arrogant, egotistical... Well, we all know who Tony Stark is, other than that, beautiful Save the Day play he made. He was actually supposed to be the exact opposite, and when Stan pitched him, the guys were like, "Hey man, I don't think it's gonna work. How are you gonna sell a superhero nobody likes, nobody can identify with? He's a rich prick." And he's like, "Marketing." And as we can all tell today, that worked out according to plan.
Wow. Funny how Hammerhead and Maggia thugs look exactly alike under a bunch of webbing.
So, back in the late 90s, when he originally first left Marvel before he got, recapped in with contracts and movies appearances and yada yada yada, he was approached by a man named Peter Paul, who pitched Lee on a project called Stan Lee Media. This was a company where Stan could release anything he wanted. Didn't have to worry about Marvel saying yes or no. He literally, if he came up with it and had a team to help him create it, bam, it was done. The problem is, releasing web series like The Seventh Portal and a sci-fi version of The Punisher known as The Accuser, it didn't sell as well as Peter Paul was leading on, so when the investors weren't making a return and there wasn't really any, there was no sales, it wasn't doing well. It's a web series in the 90s. The marketing wasn't going to work out. There was no merchandise, no toys. The investors got upset and basically went after Peter Paul, and because Stan Lee was connected, he got drug under it. Now, they cleared his name and realized that he was really more of a figurehead in the, whatever, go ahead and create that guy. And he got cleared of all the charges, but, he released a huge I'm sorry to everybody after that, because he felt like he had really shamed the, comic industry and community, which you didn't, Stan. We still love you. Stan Lee has actually donated a large portion of his money and personal effects to the University of Wyoming at various times. Plenty money there. He also started his own foundation that was founded in 2010 to focus on literacy, education, and the arts. Its stated goals include supporting programs and ideas that improve access to literacy resources, as well as promoting diversity, national literacy, culture, and the arts. Not everybody's got to be, it'd be pretty boring if everybody was just a construction worker, or a person flipping burgers, or an Uber driver, or a doctor. I mean, we all need those things, don't get me wrong, but, it'd be kind of boring if we had no entertainment, no superheroes, no movies, no shows, no comic books, no video games. No radio stations. Remember way back in the day, radios used to tell stories. TVs didn't always exist, kids, if you're watching this. TVs did not always exist. There was a time when radios didn't exist. I know. Mind-blowing.
Hey, Spider-Man, anyone do your taxes?
Alright, so that was a bunch of facts about Stan. I think we all understand, know, and appreciate him a little bit more now. I know I do. Anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. I'm glad I could teach y'all something. Or maybe you just fell asleep like you do in history class. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you one more funny little story. So you might be wondering, if you're actually paying attention at all to the video in the background, what the hell am I wearing? What do you got Spider-Man wearing, dude? For those that don't read the comics, or just play the game but don't know the story behind it, this is the bombastic, or the amazing, Bagman. Where he got this costume, yes, this really happened in the comics, and it's much older in the comics, okay? When Spider-Man got the famous black suit from the symbiote, and he realized what it was doing, and it was draining his life, and he wanted to get it off. He did actually get it off in a bell tower, like you see in all the movies. He actually had to go to Dr. Reed, okay, the Fantastic Four leader guy, you know, Mr. Fantastic, and figure out how to get this thing off. So he finally gets it off, but of course he doesn't have a suit, because he was wearing the thing as a suit, so the man is in his skivvies. Well, they throw him a traditional Fantastic Four suit, and he's like, but you know, I'm a kid, I can't let people know who Spider-Man is, they can't see this. So they give him a bag to put over his head, more specifically, you know, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, who has been a best friend / frenemy since the history of the comics. He spun the name, and for about an issue and a half, 2 issues straight, Peter ran around this until he got a new suit, because he had threw his other suit away because it wasn't as good, you know. Careful what you wish for. But anyway, that's the story of the bombastic Bagman. Once again, I hope you enjoyed all the Stan facts. May he rest in peace wherever the universe took him. He was actually a Jewish man himself, so hopefully he's met Moses, you know. Yep, see, there's another fact I forgot to mention. But either way, doesn't change the man who he was or wasn't. Hope y'all enjoyed all the fun facts of the history lesson. Thank you for tuning in. Y'all have a great evening. Catch on the flip-flop. Stay jiggly. Excelsior.
All units advised. Witnesses report an active vehicle shootout. Requesting officers on scene at Bloomingdale.
What do you have?
You know, I was just thinking about how much I miss being shot at by 2 different groups of guys who only want to kill me more than they want to kill each other. We'll talk about how Hammerhead is the worst. That's just
Spider-Man ruined our hit! Get in!
Hammerhead really never runs out of willing goons, huh?
In the air! You better run!
And the bodega cats of New York are safe in their windows once again.